Okay, today we get to have some fun. In fact, for the next 2 or 3 classes, we're going to have some fun with the Windows Graphical User Interface Base Forensics Examination Toolkits. And so now we get to use the GUI because we know how, when we click on a button in one of these programs, we know what the program is doing. That was the whole key behind everything we've learned thus far, is that what a file system looks like, what it's composed of, how files are deleted, how files are recovered, how files are hidden, and how we determine whether an extension matches the header, how to search by keyword, and so on. And so now we're going to have a little more fun. It's going to be a little easier. It's probably not going to be quite as complex. But what you'll do is get to use the actual tools that I use and that we use and law enforcement uses in everyday forensics examinations. And we're just going to really concentrate on one by Access Data, and it's called the Forensics Toolkit. And this will be the one that you use for your last assignment. And for the last assignment, you will receive a hard drive image. Not a hard drive, but an image. And so it'll be in a compressed format, and you'll be able to import that into the Forensics Toolkit and then analyze it. And I'm not going to teach you everything about the Forensics Toolkit, but I'm going to teach you the things that you will most probably need for this assignment. But I would highly suggest what you do is to actually look through all of it and explore the assignment image and use the different tools that we might not talk about in this class, but you might want to use sometime. Now, the only limitation of the Forensics Toolkit version that we're using is it's a demonstration version, so it only allows 5,000 files. So what we're going to do is we're going to install Windows, I believe XP, and we're going to delete a lot of the systems files, so we'll actually generate it so that it's less than 5,000 files. So you'll be able to import it into the Forensics Toolkit. And with that, let's get started. Okay, we've created our image of the A drive. And in fact, let's go ahead and just do one more thing up here that I should have done before. Notice you can remove evidence device, export a disk image, or create one, and so on. Export directory listing of the files. We've forgot to mention that before, after we went in and we actually imported and imaged the A drive. But now that we've done that, created our image, we can go into Forensics Toolkit. We can open that up. We make sure that our dongle is situated appropriately. Of course, you're not going to need one for the demo version. And this is running a little slowly because I've got the screen capture on. So we can start a new case, open an existing case, preview evidence, or go directly to working in a program. Well, we want to start a new case because we want to keep all our case information that we can include in our report. And so it's got a wizard here that can walk us through. Our case number is, let's say, 001. Our case name is Assignment 4. Case path, we can put this anywhere. Notice that it automatically creates it here. But we can create this anywhere. So let's go to the desktop. There we go, and select that. So now this will be saved there. Case description is Assignment for Dr. Kreger's class in digital investigative techniques. Come on, you can type. There, okay. And now the agency name, you can put anything you want in here. Notice that a lot of times you'll have several examiners that use the same computer, so you'll have several different names in here. And so you can include the company's name, phone, fax, email, and comments, and so on. On an actual case, you definitely most want to do this because then it will print out when you print out your reports. But for now, we don't need to do that. Okay, the case log options. The great thing about FTK is it's going to log everything that you do if you want it to. And it can log case and evidence events. So when you're processing something, in the analysis tool section that we'll see later, it'll actually log that to a log file, so you don't have to write the notes down. Any error messages that you may encounter, bookmarking events, you can bookmark something within FTK, and so you can go back to it readily. If you're searching for things, it can log both the what you searched for and what you found. Data carving. What is data carving? That's not a term that I've used before, but guess what? You've already done that. So you can data carve. Not only that, you can do it manually. If you recall when you went in and you used DD to extract the deleted files, that's called data carving. Well, it's really easy to do that in FTK, but you know how FTK actually does this now when you press that data carve button to recover a deleted file. So you can actually explain that on the stand. And then if you want to include other events, you can. Okay, processes to perform. These are some things that you probably want to use, including the following: the MD5 hash. So it's going to go in and it's going to hash each of the files, not the deleted files, but the ones that are located in allocated space. The SHA-1 hash is the 160-bit 20-byte value. For right now, let's not do that because it's just going to take a little longer. Known file filter lookup. What this is going to do is that FTK actually comes with a huge database of known files. And recall that we've already looked at this and talked about this, in that what it allows you to do is to actually determine whether a file matches anything that we know of, such as Windows systems files, or bad files such as known child pornography or something of that nature. And so it'll do that automatically for you. The entropy test is for unknown file types, and occasionally what you'll see something that you don't know what the file type is because the header is something new. And what it does is entropy deals with the amount of randomness in the file, and the more randomness there is, indicating that it's a particular type of file, such as most files that are compressed and most files that are encrypted will have a high degree of entropy. And so essentially what that does is it calculates the entropy and tries to determine whether it's that type of file. Full text index search. Up until now, when we used grep in this class, in the Linux class, and the computer and network security class, what we've done is do a search beginning, at a particular folder, and then it goes sequentially and logically down through the folders. Well, what this does, FTK does, is something really neat, and it will go in and take every file and index it, and it'll create a database so that when you're searching for, let's say credit card fraud or a particular credit card number, it can automatically jump to all the locations where that text has been found. What this means on the upside is that it's going to take a long time to index a large hard drive. However, after it's indexed, searches are instantaneous. Oh, what a wonderful thing. And so what you might do if you have a larger hard drive is that you actually import the large hard drive into FTK, let's say at 3 p.m. before you go home, and then let it run overnight. And so by the time you get to work the next day, it's all been indexed. Store thumbnails of graphics. You can do that, so you can wade through the different thumbnails if you're searching for a particular picture. If you have the password recovery toolkit, you can look at the NTFS encrypted file system files, which we don't have on here right now. File listing database creates a Microsoft Access database containing a list of all the files in the case, which is good. You might want to use that. And then you can have HTML file listing to create an HTML version of the file listing, so you can put that up on the web or put that in on a CD-ROM for easy access by a prosecutor or a judge or an attorney. And then data carving is to automatically find the files in free space and actually go in and carve those. But we're not going to do that now. We're going to do that manually. Okay, refine the case. And so there's different types of cases. And so, for example, if you know that you're working with email, you may want to use the email emphasis. And so what that does is it noticed that a lot of things down here changed. So we're not worried about file slack, free space, and so on. We're just worrying about the email that's located on here. So essentially what this does is, notice that these changed over here, is that we know that we're concerned with email evidence or text evidence or graphic evidence, and the options down here change accordingly. So you can go back through here, click on optimal settings, and just see how it changes, and it's kind of interesting. So we'll click on optimal settings because we're not sure on this case, are we? And do we need to refine it any further? I don't think so. So now we can go, and now we can add, edit, or remove evidence or refine evidence. And so what we're going to do here is to add the evidence. What do we have? We have an acquired image of a drive, but you can also include a local drive, contents of a folder, or an individual file. And now we're going to go to desktop, and we're going to go to assignment 4. Now recall that this was a DD file. Notice that it says .001, and the reason was that if this was, let's say, a 20 gigabyte file that we wanted to parse into 650 megabyte smaller files, and these would be numbered 002, 003, and so on. Notice also that it has 2 other files in here that we'll pull up, and this contains the information on the individual files that were located on that drive. So we can open that. There we go. Indicates the evidence location. Is that correct? Yes. Evidence to display name? Yes. Evidence identification name and number. In real life, you would always have an evidence identification name and number. This is case 001, so we're going to call this, and this isn't the way you would do it in real life, but we're going to do it here. You can add any comments you want. Now we need to choose the time zone for the evidence, because this will make a difference as to how the time and date stamps actually show up in the program. Because let's say that we've got a file from New York City, and we're actually conducting this examination in San Francisco. What we want to do is to make sure that we indicate that this evidence was obtained from an Eastern time zone, so that it actually interprets the offsets correctly. Okay. Now, if we want to, we can add other evidence, because let's say this is a case that has 4 floppies and 2 hard drives. Then you'd probably want to go in and add all the floppies and all the hard drives, and then everything would show up as a single case once you get over here. We click Next. Is everything correct? It gives us one last look at what we need to do. And that's all correct. If we want to go back, we can. But we're okay. We click Finish, and now it's going to start indexing, and you'll see that here. So you notice it's saying what's this? It's filtering and indexing. It's indicating the type of file it's working on, the size, the progress, the elapsed time, the total number of items examined, those added, total items indexed. And this is all being written out to a file, a log file. Boom. Thank goodness that was a floppy and not a 300 gigabyte hard drive, otherwise we'd be here for a while. Okay, so let's go through a few things now. We didn't have any comment before. This is the evidence path where we located, the display name that we indicated, the identification number, the evidence type, when it was added today, the number of children, which will be, what do you think that is? That will be folders and items, my name, and the evidence file name. Okay. So now what we see here is that we have different tabs up here, and then we have buttons down here. I'll give you a second to look at some of these buttons. Here we have an Explore tab, which you can imagine is going to open up a File Explorer-like window. If you're interested in graphics, this gives you the thumbnails of all the programs. If you're interested in email, what that's going to do is it's going to look at the email messages that it finds here and actually display them in here. When we do our search, we'll do that from here. And anything we've bookmarked, we can do here. This is going to give our listing of files here. And here is where we can determine, we can decide on if we want a text view, a filtered text view, a hex view, or don't view any files, or view the files using Internet Explorer or the built-in viewer. And so let's go in here. Notice the total number of items here. Move this up a little bit, move this down. Gives a little better view. And so now we have a list of all the files that are located in here. So we can scroll down, you see. Some of these you notice are unable to view. Why is that? Notice that it was in red. Remember what that was? That was a zip compressed file, so we can get at the name, but we can't see the contents of it. If we had the password recovery toolkit, we could. Notice, of course, that it gives us the full path in here. If something's in a recycle bin, it will be located. It'll say something about that here. Notice the file extensions. It says the file type, the file category. Let's move over. Subject, I'm not sure what that is. The creation date, the modification date, the last access date, logical size, and the physical size. Number of children that are encrypted. Notice that this is encrypted right here. It says yes. If we move back over here, that's going to be the .plans file. Are they deleted? Yes. Those deleted files. Whether they were indexed. This tells you whether they were indexed or not. Starting sector and starting cluster. Alternate name, and you can go through here and read all these on your own. Read only, whether it's a hidden file, the item number. Each of these would be itemized and numbered. The header. So we know all about headers, don't we? Let's scroll down through here. What's that header? Oops, I shouldn't have done that. FFD8, FFE0, and so on. We know that's a JPEG header. Let's see if there's something else I recognize down here. Offhand. Guess what that file is? That's a Office file. Okay. Then we have the MD5s that were created. Notice. Why does this say NA? Because I bet you that's going to be a folder. Yoink. Folder. Folders don't hash. They have no contents. There's the SHA hash. We didn't ask for that. The email date, the from and the to. All some nifty things that you'll use in your next assignment. Ooh, cool. Okay. So anyway, notice that this is sorted by first name, first letter. So we can scroll down here through this. If we want to look at something, we can just click on it. Hello World text didn't have anything in it. What kind of file is this? It's a deleted file. Hogwash. What is that? It's a folder. And notice that this actually displays as well the PDF files. Here's a zip file. Now, take a look at this. This actually shows the contents of this file. And the reason is because it's not zipped. And so we can actually look at the contents of that if we like. Here's a deleted file. Lots of new folder deleted files. Text file. Okay, now let's go up here. Now if we have checked items, let's say that we're interested in, let's see, this GIF file, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. Notice now that it says the checked items. And so what this allows you to do is to filter the files based upon whether they're checked or not. So if we click the checked items, now all we see in here is a much smaller set of files. And so that's kind of interesting, is that you can actually go in and just view a few files at a time in which you're interested, because looking at this is a lot of information, much more than this. Okay? And so you can uncheck all the files if you want. Oops. Oops, this checks them, this unchecks them. There we go. Okay, number of unchecked items, number of checked items, flag thumbnails, other thumbnails. If we go there, there's all the thumbnails, all the graphics that we see. And so we can scroll down through here and look at all of our graphics. You can actually filter in or filter out different things depending upon what type of file it is. And so Let's say if we're only interested in encrypted files, we can turn on the filter. Okay. And what this says is, this is the filter manager, and we can change this any way we want. So this indicates we want all different file types over here. This says we want encrypted files. We could go in and say I want encrypted files with a bad extension, or I want encrypted email items. So we can change this all we want and save them as new. Okay. So we want to close this. And now notice that filtered in is now 2. This means we have 2 encrypted files. We go there, and there they are. Now, wasn't this much easier than doing this by hand? You betcha. Imagine doing this with, it's funny, the Secret Service recently had a case where they had 28 servers to image. 28 servers. So you can imagine how long it would take to do this, even using something like FTK. So those are filtered in, filtered out. And so we can go back to the filtered out. Notice that adds up to 186 and 2 adds up to the total. Okay. We can look at the actual files. Here, there's some things that are not actual files, such as the slack space. Or go back to all items. Okay. KFF alert files. Oh, too bad. There was nothing on there that actually matched the alert database. And of course I knew that because those are just HTML files. If we were doing this on a Windows system or Mac or Linux, there's going to be a lot of files that could be alerted. We haven't bookmarked anything. Okay, so now let's move on over to file category. And notice that what we have here is a list of the different types of file according to their categories. We have documents. Okay, what constitutes a document? Well, according to them, it's HTML files, PDFs, doc files, so on. If we look over here, we've seen that before. There's the PDF file. We have the text files. And is there anything else in here? No, not for right now. Okay. In spreadsheet files, so it's going to look at the different types of spreadsheets, including Excel and whatever else there is out there. Different database files. On a hard drive, you're going to have all these things filled up in here. Number of graphics files that we see here. Email messages. Okay, that's going to be DBX files, PST files. The first is DBX is an Outlook database file. And DBX is Outlook Express, and PST files are Outlook files. We don't have any executables. The archives are going to be the zip files, of course. Notice that this remained checked. Why? Remember we checked it over here and it's filtered in? It's going to remain checked because we've checked it before. Okay. Number of different folders available to us, including all the ones that were deleted. Slack space, free space. So we have a volume boot record, which is included over here. Drive free space and the file allocation table, as we see up here. FZ, F0, FFFF. We know what that is. That's just the first 3 bytes of the FAT. Other known types of information. See what type of file are they? Office document summary info. Microsoft Word 97 stream, and so on. And 33, which are just unknown. Interesting. Why didn't it know what type of file it was? Because in this case, it's only text, so there's not enough information for us to know that that was a text file, and so it puts it in here. But of course, by reading it, we know that was part of the evidence. Okay. And that was part of the swap file. It doesn't know what type of file this is because it's encrypted. Let me see. This says it's got a .htm extension, but if you look in here, that doesn't start with the usual header, so it doesn't know that it's an HTML file. Python files. That's really hard to tell unless you look at the extension. JavaScript files. I'm surprised it didn't know. I guess JavaScript files don't have a header. You would just be looking at the extension, and when it's actually identifying these things up here, it's not identifying them according to the contents of the file, but by their headers, which we know don't really change. Here's a cascading style sheet. There's a couple of those. Okay. Okay, now if you want to, we can go up here and start looking at the Explorer. And so now we see a view of what the files situation actually looks like from a logical point of view. And so we can go down through here and see if there's any files in here. See, this says secret. What do you think this is? What do you think this is over here? Look at that right there. Look at that right there. This is the root directory entries for these folders right here. And of course, we've got it selected under it, so that means that there's no files under here, only these folders. So there they are right there. That's the short name for new folder, and here's the long name. Remember, we went over that. You should know that. Okay? Okay, if we go down here, look in old, there's nothing in there. And in new, notice if we go down here, let's go down trying to find a file. Here's a file. Okay, so that was hidden down here. If we want to look at the graphics images, we could look at them from here. Essentially what this is going to do is where all our graphic images. They're not in here. I don't remember where I hid them. I see what I did wrong is that I had down here, I just selected for encrypted files, which aren't going to show up. So once we select this and then here, let's see, the last time I used this was about a year ago. So what it does now is it shows us the different types of files. Excuse me, it shows us the graphical files. And so then we can click over here and look at the different types of files. If we look in here, wow, that's annoying. No files in there, no graphical files in there, nor there. Move down, and we're not seeing any. Move down here, there should be some in there. There we go. So now we can scroll through these images, look at the different files. Much easier than doing that by hand. Now I want you to think about how Access Data's FTK did this. How does it know these are graphic images? It looks at their headers, and then it builds a database of these files, and then it lists them in a Explorer-like format. So then you can go through here and look at all the different files, all the different graphical files. Okay, email. Now, unfortunately, we didn't have any email in this, but I'm going to let you deal with this on your next assignment. So you're actually going to have to learn how to look at the email. But you know what? It's very simple to do, because essentially what it's going to do is it's going to show up right here. How many email messages do you have? So what you'll do is when you import it in, the FTK will determine how many email files you have. It will parse the email files and then show you how many messages you have in here. And then when you come here, it's all going to show up. And some of it might be used for evidence. Okay. Now this is the real strength of FTK, and that's searching. And so notice you can do Boolean type searches. It gets very complex. And so let's search for forensics. Oh, let me go back here and do this slow. F. Notice that it starts here. F shows up 32 times. Now if I type O, it shows all the files that begin with O, R, E, N, S, I, C, S. Forensics. Shows up 6 times. So we're going to add that over here. There are 6 hits and 2 files. And we want to view cumulative results, view all the files, just to check files, filtered files, and there they are. So these are the hits. There are 5 hits in this file. And that's the name of the file right here. As you notice down here. So forensics showed up 6 times in 2 files. The other one will be here. And there it is. Okay, so now let's go and let's search for something else. Let's search for fraud. Not there. Let's search for, I know sheriff is there. Sheriff shows up 27 times. Let me see. I'm going to bookmark those results. Forensics, including report. And I don't want to export the files. There we go. Okay, I'm trying to search for something else. Encrypted. Right here. There's 2. Let's add that. select it, and 0 hits, 0 files. Okay. Remove item. Let me see, do one more. Digital shows up 8 times. I'm going to add that. View cumulative results, all files. 8 hits and 2 files. And the files are the same ones we saw before in these 2 files. Okay, if we want to do a live search. Now what a live search is going to do, it's going to, the kind of searches we're used to, and that is, starting at one spot and going all the way through the image. And so we can search by ASCII, we can search by Unicode, whether it's case sensitive or not. We can do our regular expressions, so we can use grep, or we can search via hexadecimal. So let's search via hexadecimal. FFD8FF, what is that going to be? That's the header for a JPEG file. Let's add that. Search. Yes, all files. Search complete. Total hits found 28, total files with hits 13. And here are all the files. JPEG file. JPEG files. And our shockwave file, flash file. And there we go. Let me see any Unicode. Let's go up here and search, not via ASCII, Unicode. Let's go up here, and I don't care to include that. Let's search for forensics again in Unicode. It's probably not going to show up. Zero hits. Sheriff. In Unicode, maybe that'll show up. Ah, 0 hits. Okay. Well, too bad, but at least you saw how that you can search via ASCII, Unicode, regular expression, or hexadecimal, and how that works. And here's our bookmarks. And so we created 3 bookmarks. Remember, we created one called encrypted, one called evidence, one called forensics. And so we've actually exported the files as well. So it tells us it was last modified and the size of the file. We can't view the file, of course. And this was part of our evidence that we found. And those are the search files as well. Okay, so let's create now. We know I have our bookmarks. Let's say we're done with the case. We know that export those files, save changes, and make sure we export these files. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create a report. And here's where we'll put in our phone number, our email, okay. What do we want to include in the bookmarks? Yes, all the bookmarks. Only include bookmarks flag included in report, but we want to include all of them now. Include thumbnails of bookmark graphics, export full-size graphics and link them into thumbnails, yes. And finally, yes, export only files in the bookmarks flags, export to report. Nope. Let's export all of them. Now, what are some of the properties we want? Well, let's be, wow, that's a lot of information. But we'll keep all this in there. I mean, if we want, we can go in and actually determine what we don't want to include. So I don't want to include any of these things, for example. There we go. There. Oops. Now the list is a lot shorter. And we can go through here and list anything we want. Include export full-size graphics and link them into the thumbnails. Would you like to include a separate section for graphic thumbnails? Yes. All graphics in the case. One per row. Okay, and then we can list by file path type, including the report. Here we go. And there we go. Supplementary files, a report location. It's going to be under assignment 4. It's writing it out. Yes, I want to view it. Wow, beautiful. So we've got our case information, the FTK version, the case number, location, description, when it was created. I didn't include any information in here before, but you will for the assignment, okay? And then the investigator information, file overview, number of evidence items, the totals, the thumbnails, everything that we saw on that first page. Here is included here. And a list of evidentiary items, where it's located, the evidence type, when it was added, the number of children, and the number of descendants. The case log, now check this out. So typically, instead of, you would be writing all this down, what you did and what the results were. Here, FTK will actually write out everything from the very start of the creation of the case and importing the evidence file, everything that was done. So this is all the preliminary information. And then the fact that it added the evidence item, the time and date of loading the case, filtering the file list, initializing thumbnail view, the fact that I bookmarked something and I created a bookmark called encrypted, what I searched for and the hits I found. This alone is worth half the price of this product. We didn't create the access database or list the file properties. But now we can go to the bookmarks. Here are the contents of the bookmarks. And so we go to encrypted. And so these were the two files that were encrypted. And they were exported as this, as you see. Notice that this was the index number of the files. That's included in here. Go to evidence. And there was a single file. We can click on that. And it shows you what the evidence says. Go to forensics, which was the, we actually searched for the word forensics, and this gives us the hits that we had. Now we've got the graphic thumbnails that we included in here. We didn't need all those, but I just wanted to show you how this is done. So for something like a child pornography case, it's very easy to just say, just give me all the thumbnails. In real life, you probably wouldn't do this because you have, I forgot how many, just on this small floppy. You can imagine on a hard drive how many you would have. Okay, so this will be one of the outputs of your last assignment. Excuse me, I should have said this was assignment 5. Actually, you can have assignment 4 and assignment 5 done ready at the same time. But for right now, we're just going to be working on FTK and getting you accustomed to using that. And so that ends this class. Your next one, we'll just look at in case fairly quickly.